Hello and welcome to the Kyle Connor YouTube channel. We are just outside of Detroit where we have a whole bunch of brand new 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan. So we have everything from the maxed out SEL R-Line with the 20-inch wheels, the projector LED headlights, really nice styling, of course, inside Fender audio. You can choose different interior trims, colors. This one's an all-wheel drive. I know this because it has the little gear or the terrain selection here, the driving modes. The front-wheel drives do not have different driving modes, but that's actually what I think I'm going to take you out in today. I've done review on out-of-spec reviews that will go live the same day this video does, where I compare sort of front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. There's some interesting oddities between the two. For example, front-wheel drive comes standard with 3-row seating, where all-wheel drive does not, and it's not an option. So if you want 7 seats, you have to get front-wheel drive. If you want 5 seats, you have to get all-wheel drive. That doesn't make sense to me. That's pretty weird. There's 4 trims or 5 trims of Tiguan, I think 4. So it goes S, which is base car, cloth seats, and then on top of that, you can option IQ drive, which is driver assistance technology. I think that might be the one to go for. Then you can option up to an SE, which adds driver assistance as standard, but then you can spec a sunroof, which is really nice. That might be kind of cool, but you lose the cloth seats, you gain leatherette seats, but you don't gain power seats, and that's important because the manual seats, like this car has, nope, it doesn't, has power seats. That's because this one's a black line. The manual seats go lower, in my impression, in my feeling. So I actually like the manual seats in this car. Base price about 25 grand. If you option the driver assistance in the front wheel drive base car, then it's about 26, 27. 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Same thing we've seen pretty much across the Volkswagen group. 180-ish horsepower, plenty of torque. It's not meant to be a race car, but it does well. Torque converter auto only across the lineup. So 8-speed, no DSG here in Tiguan as well. Interestingly, Tiguan is the most sold Volkswagen globally. How about that? You can see this one is not max because it has LED headlights, yes, but they're more of a reflective beam rather than a projector beam. This one's the black pack. It's got black wheels, black roof rails. Something about this rear wheel offset doesn't do it for me. Need some spacers. This one is a front wheel drive again, so it's got the cinnamon interior. Getting in the 3rd row, I actually fit. If you want to see me in the 3rd row, go to Out of Spec Reviews. I just sat in this chair. And not much headroom, but plenty of legroom. You can see you can slide the 2nd row forward and back. I can just do it this way. The base car does not get a USB-C port in the rear, but there are rear air vents as standard. Let's jump in. Start button. So this is very much a mid-spec at 32.2. No air-conditioned seats like the Max one has. No giant digital infotainment instrument cluster like the Max one has. But I don't really think you need that stuff. What we do need is a fan and AC. All right, well, I kind of have the car set up exactly how I want it. Again, no driving modes in the front wheel drive. I'll tell you why I'm choosing the front wheel drive later on. This one, again, is the R-Line SE Black. So it has the pebbled leather here on the steering wheel. It has the haptic feedback controls, but none of this is functionally really different than the base car. You have auto climate control versus manual adjustments. Again, I would love to show you the base car, but it's out with another journalist right now, so I can't do that. Gauge cluster here, if you hit this view, you can cycle through a whole bunch of different views. I have it set this way. In the middle, you can choose what you want to show with these 2 little dials. At least you could. Now it won't do it. That's all right. Into drive, 8-speed auto. So let's head out and go for a little drive and see how this thing does. Cruising in the white on cinnamon interior. Front wheel drive Tiguan. Arteon over there, by the way, the coolest car no one's ever heard of. I have a review of that either on this channel or Out of Spec Reviews if you haven't caught it. Very cool car, of course. So coming to a stop here, auto start stop did not kick on. You can see we have the logo here, but it does not remember if you turn it off to stay off the next time you start up. So if you don't like auto start stop, you got to hit that every time. Personally, I think it's pretty unintrusive in this car. The only thing that I don't love about the throttle pedal calibration is the initial tip in is pretty spicy. It's sort of that same problem that I had with the Atlas, where when you first get on the throttle, especially from an auto start stop application, it just like boosts the hell out of the engine and gives you a ton of power. So I now have driven, this is my third time out in the Tiguan. I have driven the front wheel drive and I have driven the all-wheel drive. And my opinion is buy the one that fits your region. There's really not much downside in terms of torque steer going with front wheel drive or in terms of parasitic loss of drivetrain going with all-wheel drive. You can pick that independently. I will say the all-wheel drive that I drove though felt a little bit firmer. And it was a little bit snappier on turn-in, but I think that was because the one that I tested had the larger wheels on it. So it had the 20-inch wheels versus here, I believe we are on 18s, could be 19s, hard to say. Very interesting drivetrain tuning here in the Volkswagen. Driving around in normal D mode, the programming seems to be very similar to all-wheel drive in normal D mode, and it just keeps the revs low. This engine makes a lot of grunt down low, and it doesn't ever really feel the need to rev all the way out. And I think that's quite a nice thing, is just to have all that confidence of power down low. Look, I just rolled into it, went up to 2,000 RPM, accelerating up quite nicely. It's kind of all you need. I love the driving position of this car, specifically when you get the manual seat adjustments. I think you can sit a little bit lower than the power seats. I thought the same of the ID4 actually. Perhaps that's just an illusion, but I felt a little bit more comfortable in them. The only downside for going for the manual seats is you lose the lumbar control. So if you have lower back issues, then I would probably suggest going for the power seats, because then you can at least have a in and out lumbar, not an up and down. If I pull the shifter back, it will go into S, which is sort of the sportier calibration of the drivetrain. Let's power through here. A little bit of inside wheel spin. You can see the revs moving around as it tries to figure out how to get the grip down. It's quick. Look at this thing boogie. It just rockets. That's kind of all you could ask for. You know, the Tiguan's supposed to be a premium product, but I have to say the value is truly insane, especially when you factor in the entry-level car starting at $25,000, feeling almost as nice as this car. I will say I really like the lighter color interiors, but you can spec the cloth seats with a lighter color cloth, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's true. You can, of course, have wireless Apple CarPlay here. You have USB-C ports everywhere, wireless charging as part of the upper trim. And you can kind of choose the trim that works for you. Each of the 4 trims, S, SE, SE Black, and SELR design, come in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is really not that much of an upcharge, and it probably helps with resale value. But if you need the 7 seats, if you're an Uber, then the front-wheel drive is totally fine. And that's kind of the reason we're driving the front-wheel drive right now, is I think a lot of journalists are going to be doing their reviews on all-wheel drive, so I want it to be a little different. Let's talk about the front wheel drive. Let's do a wide open throttle acceleration first. So let's take it off low climate control just to hopefully aid in some lessened parasitic losses there. Coming to a stop, auto start stop off. Left foot hard on the brake, building boost on the throttle, go. Little traction control, cut the power, spun the tires a bit. You do get a hint that there's a lot going through the front wheels, but I really gotta say the torque steer is very minimal. And yeah, look at this thing, still rocking. Yep, she boogies just fine. So have to say the acceleration is more than adequate. Let's test some of the handling. So I'm gonna move this over into manual gear selections. I really like the downshifts on this car, by the way. I think they're nice. Let's power on out of here. Really predictable cornering. I like the chassis on this car. It's easy. You can get it right up to the limit. No sense of oversteer. A lot of understeer, of course, when you really start pushing it. I don't think I'll do that on camera. Well, maybe a little bit. That's kind of right on the edge. And big power on corner exit. I like how when you're at wide open throttle and you hit it to upshift, it will upshift, thank you. But it does upshift if you hit the rev limiter. So it will not hold, even with traction control off, at the rev limiter, which I think is a real shame in any car, personally. It's even for like off-roading, if you're stuck, there's just scenarios where, you know, you got to tell the car you know better, turn traction control off. It's like 6 menus deep already, and then just let it hold at the rev limiter. It's not hurting anything. You're saying that that's the operational space that the engine's in, but I guess, you know, some automakers disagree with the way I think on that one. In terms of space, you know, that's all the performance-y stuff out of the way. It's relatively, well, before we do that, let's talk more driving. It's smooth, but you kind of get a sense of what's going on under the car. It's definitely soft. When I do this, almost nothing happens. So there's a lot of bushings, a lot of, you know, squish in here to soak up the bumps. That's to be expected. Nothing abnormal there. Ride, or I should say noise, is quiet, but not silent. The Atlas I was in earlier definitely was quieter. And of course, that's a more premium, larger product that costs more, so that's to be expected. You have great driver assistance here available. It's standard on the second trim up, so SE and up, you get IQ Drive Standard. The base car on the S, it's a $900 option. Definitely get it, 100%. That needs to be on every car, I think. So you get as standard forward collision warning, side assist, rear cross traffic, all this really nice technology as standard out of the box, which is great. But to get adaptive cruise control, to get lane centering on the highway with this little button here, let's turn adaptive cruise on, this here. I can just swipe my hand up here on the haptic feedback, or I can, oh wait, I got it on the distance control. There we go. Now I can slide up. This thing, there we go, 40, 45. If you just push and hold the top button, it will go in 5 mile/hour increments. A little bit different operation than in ID4. ID4 is you touch it and it'll do 5 if you do a hard press. This doesn't seem to recognize that. And it's sort of assisting me here through the corners. Now, it's really meant for the highway, but on a long journey, for it to sort of keep you in the center of the lane and a distance to the car in front, what more could you really ask for? That just makes a journey unbelievably comfortable. So, big fan of the IQ Drive here. I would spec it on the base car. Personally, if I was getting one, I would be in between the base or the max. I don't really like the middle space. Maybe the SE with the sunroof is kind of cool, but then you lose out on the cool cloth seats. These seats aren't bad though, these leatherette. They feel all right. You do, if you get the max one though, you do get air conditioned seats, which are nice. So overall, Tiguan is more of a styling update for 2022 than anything. So the front end design's different, LED headlights standard, LED taillights standard. It's more of a mid-cycle refresh, more so than anything super mechanical. But I will say it looks pretty damn good. I actually really like the way this car looks. I really like the way this car drives. Here, let's just make a 3-point turn here. Turning radius. Yep, pretty good. Lock available on the wheels. Backup camera, of course, as standard. Into sport and flooring it. A lot of traction there. That was good. Still motoring. So overall, freaking awesome. Really a good car. Just a great all-around offering. I mean, compared to the Japanese alternatives, CX-5, maybe CX-9, it's somewhere right in the middle there. You know, RAV4 or Highlander. This is sort of filling that space of it appears small on the outside, but 3 rows in the front wheel drive trim, usable 3 rows too. And it just drives way better than any of those. It's much more engaging. It's much more driver-centric in terms of its feel, which leads to a more premium experience for me. It has great driver assistance. Beautiful lake, by the way. Michigan is really nice around here. I've never been to this part of Michigan before, and I have to say I'm really enjoying it. Overall, yeah, this is the move. You just go max out or base car, in my opinion, but you can't go wrong anywhere in the middle. This thing just drives so well. By the way, the standard audio system's really good. The base screen is a lot smaller than this, but I didn't mind it. I thought it looked pretty cool. But in the SE, this one especially being the black R line, you do get a lot more features. So power down. A little bit of front wheel chirp. The gear shifts could be probably a little bit snappier, but that's okay. They don't really need to be. I'm really enjoying this car overall. Thanks so much for watching another Kyle Connor YouTube channel video. I hope you enjoyed your time with the Tiguan as much as I have. And if you're looking at getting one, take a look at out of spec reviews, because in that video I go through much more comprehensive sort of ownership update, or not ownership update, what am I trying to say? I go through a much more comprehensive review of this vehicle, and of course I only have a few hours with the cars today, but in a short period of time we'll have one for, I don't know, a week to test something like this, where we can really dive in and get a little bit more nerdy with you all. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.